All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is, and right here, right now, we actually have an iconic drummer right here live on the line. We got the one and only Sean G of the iconic, legendary, Dangerous Crew right here live on the line. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good, Immortal Man. I'm just chilling out. It's a pleasure to be here and to be well and to be on the show coming live with you. So I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty excited about this interview time with you and everything. Thank you, man.
Hey, man, you are most certainly welcome. I gotta say, first and foremost, man, thank you so much for just giving us a bit of your time here this evening, man. You are an absolute icon within the hip-hop community, man, so it's definitely an honor.
Thank you. My pleasure.
But I gotta ask, man, how's everything out there on your end? As you already know and the world knows, like we had the past couple of years have been hectic for the entire human race. How's everything going on your end?
I've been fortunate, blessed, and what I've been, knock on wood, wish I got something close by here. I've been safe, man. I haven't been ill, anything that I can say has anything to do with some of the issues that's been going on, we've been facing. I just am thankful, and I just really practice being safe to my best ability. And, whether I'm out and about or even indoors, I'm kind of a clean and neat, neat freak, I guess you would call it. But I keep it. I'm up on it. Any kind of product to keep safe and clean, and soap is and any things of that nature has always been my best friend. So I'm doing pretty good. I feel pretty fortunate nowadays. In this in the world we're living in.
But I want to take you back to the beginning of your iconic career this far there, Sean. And I gotta ask, man, at the very beginning, man, what actually made you decide to get into the music industry initially, man? Because when we listen to the Dangerous Crew, man, you can just tell that you are so natural at what you do.
Well, what happened, man, was a great friend that you had, and he's not just a friend, but he's like a brother, and in relationship, spiritual brother, and all. Pee-wee, you interviewed him. Pee-wee's was a former, what still is Digital Underground, but former Dangerous Crew, and he is also we were raised in the same neighborhood. And he knew that I was a drummer. I got in drums by way of my dad as a musician. And my dad was early, before Larry Graham, who's a very well-known bass player, before he hit the scene with Sly and the Family Stones. Him and my dad were musician buddies and as kids. And so my dad has really gotten me, and I have two brothers that are also musicians. Shout out to my brother Hadley and Brian, both musicians. But my dad, Howard Gales, was the person that got me in the business initially. Introduced me as a kid to my talent, to my gift, and we just went from there. And then Pee-wee brought me into the industry. He introduced me to Too Short. He had already was heading out in the Too Short world from Digital Underground, so it was an easy introduction. And him and Shorty B were friends, which you'll be interviewing him as well, as I know, in the near future. We went and we met at the Guitar Center so Too Short could hear me play. And I tell you, Immortal, after I played and let Short hear me play, the Guitar Center in Oakland, California went bananas, and all of a sudden it was a list of instruments that we wanted to buy to go further in the future with recording and concerts. from that initial time that Too Short came to hear me play. So that was really the who brought me into the industry and when I got involved with the Dangerous Crew.
And I gotta ask as well, man. When you actually first joined the Dangerous Crew, like the other members, like was the group already established when you joined, or was Too Short just actually like putting the pieces together to finalize the entire group?
So the Dangerous Crew really were before they were rappers, and Too Short had rappers. Spice One was a beginning of the Dangerous Crew. There was DJ Pizzo was a member of the Dangerous Crew. There were rappers and a DJ. Now the musician part of it came in with Shorty B and Pee Wee, and they initially were the musicians. Now, Ant Banks also is a musician, and of course, we know his career was amazing and has been amazing, and he also was a part of that beginning of the band, the musicians. Yeah, the Dangerous Crew originally was just the DJ, Mr. Pizzo, the beat fixer, and from there. It went on to musicians. It was like Too Short being he can play. Too Short can play instruments. I don't know if his fans all know that, but he can play. He can play keyboards and he can pop on some drums too. And so he brought together and had a vision of bringing together live musicians and rappers at the time where it wasn't anyone doing it. I think the closest thing to what he had visioned was the Roots, in the East Coast.
And when you said as well that Too Short can actually play instruments and whatnot, I mean, me personally, I didn't know that. I just thought he was an MC and whatnot. So when you were actually in the studio with him, did he ever actually like play any instruments on his own records or the Dangerous Crew records?
Yes, sir. He can get on that keyboard, and he loved the JD 800, and he can get on the keyboard and follow a bass line you wouldn't believe, and create one. And he would do that time. He would surprisingly say, "Well, let me put some funk on it," and then he would get on the keyboard and put a bass line together. And that was his thing. He liked it to bottom. He liked it to. He was always a fan of the punch at the bottom of what makes the speakers rumble, and that was his thing. So he liked to go right to that bass on the keyboard, and he would put something together. And then if he heard something on the drums, he would just, hey, let me try this. Or he would, in drum machine or, drums, he hear something and say, yeah, Sean, do that. And then, he had ways of showing me what he was hearing as well. If there was something else in addition to what I was doing. I mean, he's talented. He's an MC, and I don't think a lot of people knew that. That he was also, he could play instruments, drums. Yeah, he's talented.
And I do know it's been quite a few years since these records actually have been released. But if you don't mind me asking, do you actually remember any of the songs he did where he did play an instrument? That way, our listeners can actually look those songs up if they didn't already know this about Too Short.
I want to say he did. I know we worked on a project Goldie in the Land of Funk, and there was a track called Mail. Gotta Get the Mail. And if you listen to it, Short has something to do with that bass line, and it's funky. And it's the artist is Goldie, and the album is in the Land of Funk, and there's a song called "Gotta Get My Mail."
And also, as well, in the 1990s, the Dangerous Crew actually inked a record deal with Jive Records. I was wondering, how did that record deal actually come to be for you guys? And of course, what was it like just working with that iconic label early on in your guys' careers?
Okay, so with that deal, it started off as a Short, his deal, and then he introduced Jive to the Dangerous Crew, but at the time, it was Pee Wee and Shorty B, and Banks. Now, Ann Banks had a deal already with Jive, so the next phase of the deal would be the Dangerous Crew, but it was two artists that were ready to go, and had everything in the timeline that the Jive was needing. Needing the music, and the whole project turned in. So it was Pee Wee and Shorty B. And so I wasn't involved actually in that deal, but I came on later to be a part of the team. So originally, when Jive contracts were negotiated, it was Pee Wee and Shorty B and Short.
And I got to say as well, especially back in the day, like Jive Records, man, they had some phenomenal acts. Even in the mid '90s, sorry, in the beginning of the '90s, they had some phenomenal acts.
Right, and that was it. It was so much talent and so many fresh newcomers to the industry. That there weren't newcomers to the business as far as or the skills or the talent. Some were released new, and this had it and naturally came out. But Jive did have a nice, category of good entertainment artists on their label at that time in the '90s, and that was some of the best music that notably some of the best music that we know today came out that time on Jive. Success, unreal, and surprisingly that we would now realize how, beautiful that era was in hip hop and rap music, in the '90s, and the label that has so much, going on, and that was just in the rap, but they had R&B, and a lot of different other genres going on at that, back then that were really hot. But yeah, absolutely.
And also as well, while you guys were actually at Jive, on November 21st of 1995, you guys actually dropped my personal favorite record, where the Dangerous Crew actually released the album, Don't Try This at Home. I was wondering, what is the story behind this legendary album? And of course, what was it like just being in the studio putting it together?
So that was amazing. We relocated to Atlanta from the group, originally Too Short, Ann Banks, Pee Wee, and Shorty B. Now, Pee Wee hadn't officially relocated, and so that was his being there was kind of just on a project deal. He hadn't relocated. He had moved there, so that album started off with some ideas in the Bay Area, in Oakland, and then Atlanta infused a whole different element of sound, because it was a new environment for Pee Wee. Short had been there a little while, and Shorty B, and so it really just made it into this amazing time with their music and what they were there recording, and the scenery, the place that it was southern. It was truly southern, and you're talking about Northern California, musicians and way of life, and then now you're in Atlanta in the dirty South, and so that took place, and that came into the music, that merge of that West Coast into the dirty South. And then what happened with that particular album was that Short was able to get some of the artists that he enjoyed involved, that wanted to be a part of it. He made it into such a amazing. At that time, I don't think there might have been compilations, and I I think that was just kind of like around the time where compilations were coming together, getting pretty popular in hip hop music. Where you got a variety of people on one project, and sometimes they were celebrities, and sometimes they were just underground artists, but they got an opportunity to get on that platform and be heard throughout whoever was famous, their fan base got a chance to hear him. So when Short put the Dangerous Crew project together with Jive, if you recall, he had Eric Sermon on it, Breed, Tupac, Shock G. It was a lot of heat on that project. So it was really and that's when compilations were kind of just taking off. So it was an amazing, project, and I was so glad to be a part of it. I drove. I flew in to to Arkansas, and drove to Dallas and picked up my cousin, and then we drove to Atlanta so we could make the album, because we were falling behind on time to get on the album. So I drove to Atlanta to get on that album. I knew it was going to be a iconic and historic album, so I didn't want to miss the opportunity. Which Short had told me, hey, you need to get down to Atlanta. At one time he was saying, hey, would y'all be interested in relocating and moving to Atlanta? And at the time, I was not quite ready for the total move, but I was definitely ready to work, to get down there and work, on this project. So that's what I did. I drove down there, and it ended up being one of the most memorable, best times of my life in my career of being, musician, drumming, playing music, and being on a historic project.
And I have to ask as well, because I do, like you said, there was so many iconic individuals on that record, like from Tupac to MC Breed. But while we're on the topic of MC Breed, if you don't mind me asking, were you actually there for that iconic studio session where he actually recorded Weed Break, or was that a time when you actually weren't in the studio?
I was there. I remember when I got there, I hadn't been at the studio probably an hour. And MC Breed, I was outside because I was really just taken in by the weather in the South. It's such a I wanted to say it's like humid, and I wasn't used to that. It was humid, and it was beautiful sunshine, and it was just a beautiful vibe. And so I was outside. Every time I got a chance to get out of the studio, of course, the studio being outside, I would take advantage of this element of country. And so I remember Breed pulling up, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, this is going to be a nice session. So and Breed, humble man, and just full of just, you just. He was a magnet, man. He was like see the guy, you automatically wanted to get up close and talk to him. And he was the type of person that would let you in his space. He was really humble guy, man. He was truly missed, man. Great artist, and he left a strong legacy in this music industry. He will not be forgotten. He is awesome. Miss that guy.
And I have to ask one thing, because obviously, as you already know, the Dangerous Crew only released two phenomenal records. I have to ask, what actually made you guys decide to part ways actually back in the 90s? And of course, throughout the years since then, has there been any talks of a reunion?
Okay, well, it was, for me, I was never on a particular the contract side of the Dangerous Crew on Jive. I was just part of the member of the musician, and like I said, but it was not on the contract of that particular project. So when it came to the disperse of the group, I really couldn't say as much as probably what we'll learn from Shorty B's interview or if you again have an interview with Pee Wee on the Dangerous Crew, being that he was also in the Dangerous Crew as well as Digital Underground, but they would have a better way of giving you that answer than I could. Unfortunately, I couldn't say what made us part, but I do miss the being in the studio and working with the Dangerous Crew, and being the musician, the drummer, and I did backup singing, and they kept me around. I mean, I was there. It was a lot of love, and they loved what I brought to the table, and I love what the opportunity that Short and the rest of the fellows allowed me to do there. And so I wish I could say what it was dispersed, but I can't. I would have to let one of those guys give you that answer fairly, But I wish I had the answer for that anymore, but I don't. But talk of doing it again, I have heard. I have been. I recall even last year before the everything happened as far as the illnesses and the viruses and things of that nature. I do recall Shorty B getting in contact with Pee Wee, myself, and Banks, and talking about possibly doing something in the future, being that when the fan base just offered every time that there's an opportunity for us to talk to the fans that remember, or the newer fans that have discovered us, it always gets us opportunity to go there and talk about, what if we try to do something now? What would that be like? How incredible would that be? And so it's been talks, and I will be down. I'm with it. It was going to happen, and I'll let Shorty B, when he gets with you, talk about, because there was a opportunity for Unsung with Too Short that introduced us at one point, but with Too Short being still so current and involved to this day, Unsung, I don't know if he's even ready. He's still prime in his career, and not saying that Unsung are usually artists that we remember, but they are, and Unsung is a special, beautiful tribute to musicians that we remember, and if they're still doing, if they're still current or not, but just the respect of what they brought to the music industry and to the world is incredible. So I appreciate Unsung for everything they do. But that was a talk that they had brought to my attention, about a possible Unsung, and in the Unsung, of course, you would have with Too Short in his career. If you follow it, we come up. We are part of his career.
And also, as well, going into your solo side of things, man, you were also a vocalist on 2 releases from the hip-hop duo Gold Money. I was wondering if you can actually tell our listeners the story behind this recording session, and of course, what was it like working with Pee Wee outside of the Dangerous Crew?
Oh, Pee Wee is 88 fingers. And when he got that name, particularly from Too Short, we had several names for him, and more than we. And because he's a musical genius, Pee Wee was the person that could make sounds, and it wasn't even really a popular thing. Everyone's accustomed to just traditional sounds: a harmonica, a drum, a guitar, a bass, things of that nature. But Pee Wee was such a crafty musician that he was able to or different sounds. He was able to make sounds on the album that would You know, that now we look at it, it's like, okay, it's a soundtrack. Someone's putting, you know, you got the Dr. Dre's, you hear sounds in the music, or you use producers. He was doing it back then when no one was doing it. He could create sounds out of different, anything, a pencil. And so working with him was like magical. It was always like if you were to go to see someone, a musician, you know, that could just make something disappear and bring it back. He was that type of person in the music. He can make stuff happen, and you just, how did you do this? And now I recall a time where I went to hook up with Pee Wee, and I go through the door, knock on the door, and it's him and Tupac sitting there working on the track. And I'm thinking, oh, I've walked into something really special. You know, I mean, how many people wish they was in, you know, could do this, what I'm doing right now? At the time, you know, that I was there, was early in Tupac's career, and here's him and Ramon. They were working on a project or a song. And I go, there it is. And I go, wow, he's introduced that talent to Tupac, these sounds. And I was looking at Tupac's expression, and he was like, you know, I could see it, you know, like, how did he do this? How did he make this sound? What is it? And you love it. And that, so Pee Wee, working with Pee Wee has always been awesome. And I'm also grateful that I was at the right place at the right time, doing music, you know. Spiritually, I give God his glory for that, because he put me there, in right there in the presence of a man in the beginning of his music introduction, and I was a part of it early, and seeing, and you know, to see what, you know, his success. And so it's working with Pee Wee was amazing, man. You know, and then on that Gold Money, I recall being in the studio. We were recording it called Starlight Studios in Richmond, California. For all you folks out there that like to know the studios and things that some of this magic was done, we have Starlight Studios in Richmond, California. So many hits have come out that studio. You know, and so you do your research, you'll find out. But I was singing background on. I thought it was going to be background, but it ended up being a track that Pee Wee said, "No, I'm going to make this the hook of the song." And so it was A Day in the Life of a Player, and that was the album that I did with Pee Wee when he introduced, you know, my vocals, and from there from what our other artists. I remember Pee Wee saying Shock G debated with him that he knew that was a sample of George Clinton, and they were going back and forth. Pee Wee's, no, that's Sean G. He goes, no, man, that's a sample of George and Funkadelic Parliament, and back then it was you would think that because I had the kind of the raspy voice, and then I could, you know, it would sound like an older person's voice, and here we are, kids, you know, young, kind of, not gonna say kids, but young, you know, young girl. But yeah, that was the introduction to my vocals with Pee Wee, man, with Starlight Studio on his album, and then it kind of just went. Before I knew it, you know, I was singing some background on some Spice One, on Too Short's record, Getting Where You Fit In. I did some vocals, and one of it wasn't actually singing, but it was the hook that landed me the spot on Only the Strong Survive with Too Short. I'm the one singing the hook on that. Too Short loved it. He was like, I'm keeping that. And so we went forward. And but drumming and you know is my passion, has always been my thing. singing as well when I get a chance. But never went out to do like a Nate Dogg. I always was been a fan of his. I just knew that if I had an opportunity to go to that level in singing, I'll probably try, but I don't claim to be that good. I can sing, I can hold a note, as they say, but not a Nate Dogg. I sure appreciate you asking about that, Mortal.
But I gotta ask first and foremost, Sean, what is next for you? Because I do know that tonight we only touched base on a sliver of your iconic career this far. But I have to ask: is there anything we happen to miss? Anything else you still want to talk about or promote? What we still got you here live on the radio station airwaves this evening?
I tell you, I am really involved with gospel, and I'm at a point in my life where I realize who made it happen for me. And who's watched over me in this business. And so I have contributed a great deal of my talent to the gospel. And I have a cousin, Pastor Roswald Murchison. I got to give him a plug because he's my pastor, and he's an amazing producer and I'm working with him on his album. I don't have all the details to say when or it's going to be done, but I'm looking forward to the gospel project. I still have a great love for hip hop and in the music of hip hop. So if I see myself being prepared and ready for any projects that come about. I still do some live drumming local or around the United States. I haven't been out of state because of what's going on. I haven't done any traveling like that. But I do, I have drums set up. I play them. I stay dear to the opportunity. And just to let you know that I'm sincere, here's a symbol. Right there. The drummer, Sean G, funky drummer #1. drums stick close to me. So I look forward to doing some things in the near future, if time allows it to happen. So stay tuned, fans and listeners. Stay tuned to keep your ear to the street. And Sean G, you just look on there and hear something that you like. I'm still at it. Immortal. I'm still doing it.
And also, Sean, this is the time in the interview quickly that I give a chance for the individual that does slide into the radio station airwaves, just a chance to give shout-outs to whomever they want to give shout-outs to, but most of all, your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you and stay updated on everything you got going on if they're not already doing so.
Great. Well, you can follow me. I'm on Facebook under Sean Gales. That's my real name, and it's under it. I'm there, Sean Gales. On Facebook, I'm on also Instagram under the real Sean G. And that's it. I'm on those two, and I stay on there. I check in, and that's how me and you connected on Facebook. So listeners, you can. I do ads, especially on the page where you see my involvement with the Dangerous Crew. I do accept friends. I'm pretty close to 5,000 followers, but I still would. Hey, there's a way to communicate with me. Feel welcome. Feel free to chime in with me, and we'll kick it up some. I still, I keep involved with the fans. If it wasn't for the fans, man, hey, nothing would have been as gracious, as beautiful, as fun as it has been without the fans' support. So I love and appreciate all the fans.
And I gotta say first and foremost, Sean, thank you so much, man, for just giving us a bit of your time here this evening and sliding into the 97.7 FM airwaves. It definitely was an honor and most certainly a privilege just to interview such a iconic hip-hop individual like yourself, man. So I hope down the line we can make this happen again sometime soon, man. Thank you so much again, Sean.
I want to thank you and the radio station and all your listeners. Kennedy, you are truly, truly an inspiration. I've been following. I will continue to follow, and you are welcome. And I appreciate you allowing me to update everyone that's listened to my sound of my drum playing or over the years. I'm thankful and for you and the radio station. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
You are most certainly welcome, Sean, but I gotta say, most definitely have yourself a wonderful night out there, man. Well, I'm pretty sure we definitely shall talk again soon.
Look forward to it, and you do the same, my guy.
Thank you so much, Sean. Have yourself a wonderful night.
And you do the same. Thank you.